So we changed a bit the program. We go directly to the session on evaluation. I think we also like are talking about evaluation and assessment of a program since the beginning of the meeting, and so we will continue. Like this is more like a bit of a focus, really on evaluation. And what I wanted to do is to just recap a bit to be clear like what we are talking about and be a bit more focused on really evaluation and like a more precise evaluation of a program. So explaining just recapping what an evaluation actually is. And then as you probably all know, we are actually conducting an external evaluation. So we hired some consultants to do an evaluation of a program. So then I can present to you like the preliminary results that we have. I will let you know like where they are, and then some findings that they send to us, and then what I suggest if we could have some time like 20-30 minutes to discuss actually a few questions, a few points to have your feedback on specific issues. Okay, so just really quickly, I don't know if you are all familiar, but what we are talking about here is like on the left side. This is kind of the life cycle of a project. So it should begin with a needs assessment and then a planning and programming the project and then implementing it. So now we are like, on the bottom, we are currently implementing the project. Monitoring should be like ongoing during the whole project. And here we are focusing on evaluation. Evaluation has precise objectives, and it's to verify and improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the project, and to be able to support management decision to eventually have corrective actions if we think there is a need to. And of course, it's a good way to be also accountable and transparent. So actually, some donors require sometimes to have like an external evaluation, also involving external stakeholders. So this is like I think it's quite interesting because it's a retrospective on a program, and that's a consultant that did that, and I think it's interesting to see like the sequence of what we did actually, and their views on it. So what they put in their influences is like the start of a program, let's say with the Global Corruption Report on climate change in 2011, and also linked to that like the TI strategies that recognize a program as a key program, but not in the normal sense of it, let's say. Then they just highlighted like a few key activities, like mainly big advocacy actions that you are familiar with on G20, COP, Rio +20, and GCF. And then you have the timeline on the different projects, and the overall program that we have now, that we created in line with the process at TIS to define like a strategy for each key program. And then you can see like the initial projects focusing on forestry that are now continuing, and a project which is the first one. So this is just to give you an overview of how we frame our program in the document that we sent you, the program document. So you have basically the outputs on the left side. So research, project monitoring, awareness raising and advocacy. And this is like the theory of change of a program. So this should lead to an identification of required changes in policies at national and international level. And then these changes should be implemented, and the desired impact is to have enhanced transparency, accountability, and integrity in climate finance. Oh, interesting. So, okay. I will translate that to you. Yeah. That's Aki. He wanted to say greetings to you. Yes, so again, like we have the activities on the bottom, and it's research, advocacy, project monitoring, and then we have 4 key results. The first one is like under construction, I would say. It's focusing on carbon finance. So this is like a kind of a new area of work that we are looking at for the moment. So that's why it's into brackets. So I will focus on the main 3 first results. So the first one is basically the idea of being a watchdog and monitoring climate finance projects throughout the life cycle. And the second one is this ELAC kind of work, so complaint mechanism to make sure that victims and witnesses of corruption can articulate and find solutions to their grievances. And the third one is basically advocacy at national and international level. And from that, the purpose that you can see on the top is to have transparent and accountable climate and carbon, eventually, finance policies and practices being implemented at all levels. And then the final goal of that is to ensure that public money for climate change is used effectively. Yeah. So the bottom is the activities, basically. So raising awareness, doing research, doing advocacy. So this is like the translation of the theory of change. So what we want to achieve and how we are achieving it. So for the 3 main results, we try to define indicators, which are more like impact indicators. So for the first one, for the monitoring, we would like to try to monitor like the number and the quality of the monitoring actions done by TI, but also like civil society in a sense that when we are working in coalition or networks, and so this monitoring actions to demand accountability. And then we have like the following indicator is the number and quality of changes. And as Lisa said yesterday, you have different kind of quality. So these changes can be discussed, can be actually in practice, or can be like a change of culture. So you can assess like this quality or like this importance of the impact of the change. Like the indicators are quite similar, if you can see. So the second one is a bit different because here we are only counting the chapters that are actually providing this kind of support, this kind of complaint mechanism. But we can also have other indicators with like the number of cases received, the number of cases processed, etc. And here we are also like highlighting, as following a discussion also on how to link our work with the work in the chapter. Here I think it's really relevant, in particular with people engagement program and existing ALACs. So the point is to try to link with existing ALACs or to build up like a complaint mechanism specifically on climate finance. And the third indicators on the results on advocacy and enforced policies is also like trying to count and assess the quality of changes in relation to climate finance policy and governance resulting from advocacy actions. Here you can, this table has been also prepared by the consultants. So these consultants did so far a review of our documents, so including the program document that was finalized a couple of months ago, so which is kind of retrospectively done, and also like taking the proposal that we have, so for the BMU for our project, but also the other projects on forestry. And they came at TIS to interview us, so like the team at TIS plus other people, so the program director and some people from the regional departments to gather like different views from TIS. Currently, they are reaching out to different stakeholders, so stakeholders from the funds, from other NGOs, from donors, like quite a large panel of stakeholders and interviewing them to get their feedback. Then they will go to 3 chapters, which are Indonesia, Kenya, and Bangladesh. So that will be in the same region, but the good thing is that they will be able to see like both projects, and then I think like following the discussion that we will have today, it will also be fed into their evaluation, and then I think they will either like send you a questionnaire with some follow-up questions, or if you have more time, like an interview with different chapters to really get like an overview. And so their assessment here is more based on the report. So it's of course including your work, like the work at the chapter level, but it's but for the direct feedback that they received, it's more from TIS, and they didn't include yet the different stakeholders that they are interviewing. So that's really incomplete. So and this could change, but I just copied and pasted what they did. So I think it's good also to have like an external point of view. It seems they are assessing that we are actually we are green, kind of. We are matching like what we put in the proposal. So on the left side, you have like all the indicators or all the commitments, the deliverables, more the indicators that we put in the initial proposal, and on the right side, like the assessment. So most of the deliverables, not really indicators, but they assess that it's quite complete. The one in orange is on the e-learning. Yeah, they are just highlighting, and also in a couple of other deliverables that we are a bit late, like the rollout is delayed, but it seems for them it's justified, and it doesn't really impact like the quality of what was done. So basically, like the research that was a bit late and had some impacts on the rest of the deliverables. That's some like the key findings that they put. So you have here 5 different sets of criteria. That's always the same criteria that are used by different donors or evaluation that are undertaken. Like it's almost the same like for European Commission, DFID, all the donors. The wording can change a bit, and sometimes you've got other indicators, but this is kind of the main ones. And then the discussion that I suggest we could have will also follow this typology of indicators or like criteria. So the first one is the relevant. So basically here we are looking at what is the goal of the project, and is it matching the priorities, the policies of the target groups, or like the needs? So basically corresponding to the needs assessment phase, are we actually in line with that, and are we achieving that? So here what they put is, for them, so they recognize like the urgent needs to act, like the complexity of the governance of climate finance that justified having such a program, and more like the way, I guess, project is implemented is also relevant, as climate finance is a global issue. They also highlighted that the demand is there, so there is no competitors, like meaning that mainly, for instance, the environmental NGOs are not on issues of transparency and accountability, and they recognize again like this combination of national and international inputs that is relevant for climate finance. On the design, I think we know that also like so here it's more like the need to keep focused on anti-corruption and be clear on that when we talk to stakeholders. The impact, so here it's always, when we talk about impacts, it's always a bit tricky, because I think our impacts or final impact will be efficiency and less corruption. So here it's something, I wouldn't put impact, but that's the wording they used. So they recognized that the capacity and the knowledge was built. That was like one of the main objectives of a project. Some opinions have been influenced through advocacy. And here more of a comment or an improvement. They say that there is maybe more a need of more stories. I think we also discussed that to be able to advocate easily. And yeah, of course, I highlighted also that it's difficult to measure our impact and to track results. On effectiveness, so here it's really, are we achieving our outcomes? They put that it's generally achieved as planned, and some adjustments have been done, but are mostly justified. So here it's like more the delays. And there is like a difference, of course, between the different contexts in different countries, and linked also to the baseline too. So like the indicators that we discussed yesterday. Efficiency is output versus input. So meaning what we achieved, did we achieve it in an efficient way? So compared to the inputs in terms of resources, cost, human resources. Is it a good ratio? I think it's really also difficult to measure because as a program, it's different. It's also involving different countries with different costs. There is not really any data on TI about how much a program like that costs, and also because our program is so different, right? Like we have research, we have advocacy, we have like so many different components that to actually really assess that, it's quite complicated. They just put that they have some resources issues that could have impacted efficiency. The e-learning tool that was a bit expensive, like more expensive than expected, not expensive as an e-learning tool, I think. But they clearly say they are not really able to have concrete figures to calculate any efficiency ratio, but they do not have any concern about efficiency, meaning especially like they found that it was quite low administrative costs. I think we are in average like 2 per country. Sometimes it could be more, like especially in Bangladesh. But so it's quite a small team. And regarding like the outputs, the deliverables that we have that are quite ambitious, I think. So that's what they put basically. And the last set of criteria is on sustainability. So we also discussed that, I think, yesterday. But the project that we have, what's happening basically when it's over? Like, did we put processes in place so that it could be used in the future? Here I think like the first comment is also like on the last session that we had yesterday. So how to actually get a walk into the chapter strategy and be able to sustainable this walk. And then the second one I think is they clearly saw that we discussed that also, that we have some tools that are transferable. We have now manuals. We have methodologies for research that are actually already used by others. And of course, like we don't have really a clear idea yet of future findings. So this funding, so this could be an issue if we want to really sustain our activities and work. Okay, so I don't know if you have comments so far or questions. If not, I would suggest that we divide in 2 groups, and based on the same criteria, we develop some questions that are specifically for you, and it will be good to have your feedback. So maybe before presenting these questions, do you have any question or comments so far? So the next step of the evaluation also, so the consultants are now, as I said, interviewing external stakeholders, doing some visit in different chapters, and then the final report is envisaged for beginning of July, I would say. So of course we will share that with you, and we can have a discussion based on their findings that will be more complete than what we have so far, I guess. Edward.
Gracias, Brice. Entiendo que la metodología propuesta para la evaluación pues, se ha ajustado a nuestro propio diseño del programa y que tiene que ver con, hay un grado de consistencia con ello. Pero si nos imagináramos que este fuera un consejo de decisión sobre el programa y lo que tuviéramos son estos key findings, sería muy difícil tomar decisiones. Digamos, no son, los hallazgos no son indicativos de correcciones, de mejoras o de ajustes a nuestra planeación. Mi invitación sería a que en ese documento que se va a presentar en algunos meses hubiera, y todos hemos hecho en algún momento evaluaciones a otros, estas recomendaciones de política pública que no dicen nada, o estas recomendaciones genéricas, ¿no?, sobre mejorar la eficiencia, la productividad, etcétera. A lo mejor de todos estos, un par de datos en una escala muy sencilla de 0 a 10 que nos dijeran qué tan cerca estamos, aunque sea la apreciación cualitativa del equipo de evaluación, qué tan cerca estamos de alguno de los objetivos que nos planteamos. Y aunque sea solamente un ejercicio, digamos, de percepción de los evaluadores, creo que sería muy útil para tomar decisiones a partir de ese momento. Buena parte de la historia de nuestro movimiento es el de tener muchas evaluaciones que no utiliza el área ejecutiva para tomar decisiones, sino que acompañan el paquete final de información sobre el proyecto, ¿no? Ojalá pudieran darnos, aunque sea como ejercicio, 5 o 6 datos que nos digan están más cerca de esto y más lejos de esto otro.
So you may also be more on, like, regarding the objectives, you mean? So having like this appreciation of the objectives, like where we are, yeah. Like, yeah, and I think like, yeah, as I said, like that's really intermediary results. So I don't know really now like how the final evaluation report will look like. But I think we could, yeah, ask for this kind of data and exercise. And I think like this evaluation was also looking backward, so like really evaluating a program like where we are. But we also really were asking for like looking forward and actually like concrete recommendations on how the program should be developed. And also like we asked them to come up with some recommendations on concretely like how it should be implemented as well. So linked to the discussions that we had, like this chapter-led initiative, or how like who should play which role and so on. So hopefully we will have that. But yeah, that's a good point. Any other comment or question? No? Okay. So if we could maybe divide in 2 groups, let's say 1, 2, that's easy. So I don't know if it's like the set of criteria is clear, like I presented to you like before. So this is like the same criteria for the 2 groups. The first one is the same. It's on relevance of a program. I think that should be really like a quick question, because I think we all think that it's relevant, right? but here the question is more: do we feel that there is actually a gap in our program, or is there like an area where we should actually invest more or investigate at least? So it could be also linked on what I said on carbon finance, for instance. Do we think we should go in this field, or is it not for us? So this question is the same for the 2 groups, but as I said, that should be like a quick one. For the group number 1, the second criteria is on impact. So here, like, how do you assess, like, maybe what you said, Eduardo, how do you assess like the quantitative and qualitative outputs compared to the targets or the baseline indicators that you developed? And also I think we discussed that, but for you, like, what are like the unintended or unexpected impacts that we actually had? Still for group 1 on effectiveness, so do you assess that actually our results are in line with objectives and indicators that we had at the beginning of the project? And maybe if not, like why it changed? And then how do you explain, and maybe what are the lessons learned of any delay or change in schedule that we can have? So that's for group 1. For group 2, so again, like the same question on relevance, it should be short. The second one is on efficiency. So compared to the resources that we put, do you assess that we actually used these resources like efficiently? So this idea of like value for money also. And the second question is also interesting. Like, do you think that since the beginning of the project, were we able to identify and like adapt a project, like maybe like at the national, like the political momentums, but also any management issue, or were we able to actually change our way of working? And the last one is on sustainability. So for you, like, do you assess that the effects of a project will last, and if yes, like how do you see like the replication of a work or this longevity? And then, in your opinion, what do you think should be adapted or changed in a current way of implementing a project to ensure this sustainability? Is that clear? Yeah? Okay. Could we have one rapporteur for each session, for each group? You are the one? See, it's you two? Or? Magali. And for group 1, Bruno, do you want to? No. Who wants to report, to facilitate and report? Yeah? Bruno? Or? Yeah? Samuel, do you want to? Samuel is leading the next session. No? So could we have like 20 minutes? And then come back here?
Yeah, we should announce that Frank will do a break in the streaming, so we need to tell him what time we're coming back.
Yeah.
And he will put a sign in.
Yeah. In 20 minutes?
Yeah.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Para equiparar el equipo, podría ser que uno de los capítulos nuevos vaya para acá y uno de República Dominicana esté acá. ¿Sí? Para que estemos de ambos lados. Porque está la secretaría y todo, ¿no?
So could one of you, join the other book? And we can, like, you can go outside or wherever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and maybe like the idea was to actually, if Andres and Roberto, maybe if you could actually also moderate a bit this session, so meaning asking actually the chapters that are implementing this project and trying to challenge them and ask these questions, because for you will have like an external point of view, and maybe you will have some questions that we are not thinking of. Roberto, are you joining this group or?